I sat across from Marcus at the dinner table, heart pounding. I lost my job today, I lied softly just to see. His fork froze midair. Then he scoffed. Of course you did. Useless. Useless? That word hit harder than I expected. No, are you okay? No hug. Just disgust. He pushed his plate aside. I knew this would happen. I carry everything. What do you even contribute? I wanted to scream. I just got promoted. I was finally earning more than him. But I stayed quiet. This wasn't just about the job. This was about him. About us. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him, and all I could think was, who did I marry? Do you think Marcus's reaction is normal? Comment below. Like, subscribe, and follow. The truth was, I hadn't lost my job. Quite the opposite, actually. Just 3 days before that dinner, I stood in my boss's office, trying to hide the shock on my face as she handed me a new contract and said, "You've earned this, Jasmine. Director of Operations. Effective immediately." I wanted to cry. I'd worked so hard. Late nights, early mornings, skipped vacations. I poured everything into that job, and it finally paid off. The salary bump was big, enough to shift the dynamic in our household. But as I held that contract, something tugged at me. I didn't feel excited. I felt afraid. Because I knew Marcus. I knew how much pride he took in being the man of the house. He was always comparing paychecks, always needing to feel like the provider, even though I'd quietly covered most of our expenses for years. So I didn't tell him. I told Tina first. She screamed and hugged me right there in the coffee shop. "You did it, Jazz," she laughed, almost tearing up. "You finally got what you deserve." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "I haven't told Marcus." Tina's face dropped. "Why not?" "Because I don't know how he'll take it. He's been weird lately." She tilted her head. "Weird how?" "Cold, distant, like he's keeping something from me, or like he's mad all the time and I don't even know what I did." I didn't say the rest. I didn't tell her about the way Marcus sometimes stared at me like I was in his way, or how his mother, Gloria, had stopped calling altogether. How Vanessa, Marcus's late brother's girlfriend, had suddenly moved in with Gloria and now spent more time at our house than she should. Something was shifting. I could feel it. And then came the night I heard them. It was after midnight. I had trouble sleeping lately, so I got up to make tea. As I passed by the slightly cracked kitchen door, I heard low voices. Gloria and Marcus. "I'm telling you, Marcus," Gloria hissed. "If she finds out anything now, the plan falls apart." "I know, Ma. I know. But I can't keep pretending much longer. She's acting suspicious." "Then act faster," Gloria snapped. "Vanessa is getting tired of waiting." I froze. Vanessa? Waiting for what? The teacup in my hand rattled, and I quickly backed away before they noticed me. I crept back to the bedroom, hands shaking, mind racing. What plan? Why was Vanessa involved? Why was my husband talking about pretending around me? That was the first time I truly felt fear in my own home. The next morning, Marcus acted normal. Too normal. He made pancakes and poured me coffee like we were newlyweds again. I smiled through it, but inside I was unraveling. He kissed my cheek before leaving for work and said, "Love you." And I almost asked, "Do you?" Because now I didn't know anymore. I waited until he was gone and drove straight to Tina's office. "I think they're planning something," I told her, pacing the room. "I think Marcus and Gloria are trying to get rid of me. I don't know how. I just know something's coming." Tina didn't laugh. She didn't roll her eyes. She just stood slowly, walked to the door, and locked it behind her. "Okay," she said. "Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about the fake firing test, about Marcus's cruel reaction, about my secret promotion, about the conversation I overheard, every detail, every knot in my stomach. And when I was done, she sat back and folded her arms. "You need to start protecting yourself, Jazz. Quietly. No drama, no fights, just proof, documents, records, anything that shows what you've earned, what you've paid for, what's yours." My eyes burned. You think he'd try to take it all from me? She looked at me gently. I think some people don't show their true face until they think they've already won. And in that moment, I knew she was right. I was married to a man I didn't recognize, and I had no idea what he was truly capable of. Vanessa was supposed to be grieving. That's what Gloria always said when I asked why she was still living with them a year after Marcus's brother passed away. She has a baby now, Gloria would say. She needs support. I tried to be understanding. I really did. But over the last few months, I noticed how often Vanessa showed up at our house, even without Gloria. She'd bring the baby, smile too wide, stay too long. And Marcus? He never seemed to mind. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it, that maybe I was just on edge because of everything else. But little signs started stacking up. The way she laughed too hard at Marcus's jokes, the quiet, secret glances they thought I didn't see. One night, I walked into the living room, and they were sitting too close on the couch, too close for a woman who was once his brother's girlfriend. They jumped apart like teenagers caught sneaking around. "Oh, hey, Jasmine," Vanessa said, smoothing her hair. "We were just talking about the baby's pediatrician." Marcus didn't even look at me. He grabbed his drink and walked out like nothing happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning it over in my mind. Why was Vanessa always here? Why did Gloria act like she was already part of the family? And then, I found the envelope. It was late afternoon. Marcus was at work. I was in the guest room gathering old files. That room used to be empty, but lately it felt lived in, like someone had claimed it. The drawer in the bedside table stuck a little. I had to tug. Inside was a crumpled manila envelope with a small stack of papers. I didn't think much of it until I saw the name on the top. Paternity test results. My throat closed. My fingers trembled as I flipped the first page open. I wasn't even sure why I kept reading. Maybe I thought it was for Marcus's brother. Maybe I wanted to believe it had nothing to do with me. But there it was, printed in cold, black letters. Alleged father, Marcus Taylor. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. My husband. The father of Vanessa's baby? I couldn't breathe. I clutched the envelope against my chest and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. Everything I'd been feeling suddenly clicked into place. The odd tension, the sudden affection for Vanessa, Gloria's strange warnings, the conversations I wasn't meant to hear. This wasn't just about jealousy. It wasn't in my head. They were trying to erase me, replace me. And they were already halfway there. That night, I didn't say a word. I left the envelope where I found it, exactly as it was. I didn't confront Marcus. I didn't scream or cry or throw things, though my chest felt like it might explode. I played it cool. I made dinner. We sat at the table in silence. He didn't notice I barely touched my food, didn't care that I didn't smile once. He didn't know what I knew, and that gave me power. But inside, something was breaking. He had lied to me in the most vile, disgusting way. While I was working long hours, holding our marriage together with my bare hands, he was building a life behind my back, with the mother of his dead brother's child. And worse, his whole family knew. They weren't just watching this happen. They were helping. I went to bed early and locked the door behind me, claiming a headache. I stared at the ceiling all night, wide awake, listening to every creak in the floorboards. I didn't know who I could trust anymore. But I did know one thing. I was done playing nice. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd roll over and disappear. They were wrong. They had no idea who they were dealing with. It started with little things. First, my name vanished from the utility bills. Then the joint account Marcus and I had shared for 8 years suddenly locked me out. I thought it was a glitch. I called the bank, only to be told the account was now under primary holder authority only. Marcus's authority. I didn't panic. Not yet. But then came the second blow. I received a formal letter in the mail, unsigned, typed on plain paper, accusing me of emotional instability. It said I was frequently paranoid, that I had episodes, and had abandoned household responsibilities. I sat frozen, reading the lines over and over, my hands trembling. It was Gloria. Her language, her tone, her lies. She was building a narrative, one where I was crazy, unfit, disposable. That same week, Marcus began walking on eggshells around me. He'd randomly record arguments on his phone, then pretend it was nothing. I'd catch him pointing his phone at me during conversations, his eyes watching my every reaction. He was documenting me, and suddenly, everything felt like a trap. One evening, I returned home to find Vanessa sitting on our couch. Not Gloria's, ours. The baby was in her arms, asleep. Marcus stood beside her, smiling, like a family, like I was the intruder. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "Oh, Vanessa needed a quiet place to stay for a few nights," Marcus said like it was normal. "Gloria's house is too crowded." "No one asked me," I said quietly. Marcus shrugged. "I didn't think I had to." That was it. Just like that, my home became their playground. Later that night, I went into our bedroom and found the closet rearranged. My things were pushed to one side. Some were boxed up, labeled like I was halfway out already. I opened my drawer, empty. Not even a pair of socks. My chest tightened. This wasn't paranoia. They were preparing for something. For me to be gone. They weren't just trying to hurt me. They were trying to erase me. I sat on the floor surrounded by boxes of my own belongings and let the truth settle. They were building a case. They wanted me out of the house, out of Marcus's life, and out of the picture so that Vanessa and her child, Marcus's child, could move in cleanly. No mess, no divorce scandal. Just Jasmine, the unstable wife, who lost her mind and walked out. Except I wasn't walking anywhere. The next morning, I called Tina. "I need help," I whispered. Her voice sharpened instantly. "Where are you?" "At home. But I think they're going to try to force me out. They're staging it, bit by bit." Tina didn't hesitate. "Start gathering proof. Everything you've paid for. Bills, mortgage contributions, anything in your name. And Jasmine?" "Yeah?" "Don't confront him. Don't warn him. Don't let them know you're catching on." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. For the next week, I moved quietly, like a ghost in my own home. While Marcus and Vanessa watched TV in the living room, I went through our filing cabinets and scanned every receipt I could find. Rent payments, home repairs, my pay stubs, my promotion letter. I opened drawers I hadn't touched in months and found things missing. Photos of Marcus and me, gone. My graduation certificate, gone. Even the framed wedding photo had been replaced with a neutral landscape painting. It was as if I had never lived here, but I had, and I had proof. Gloria may have been good at spinning lies, but I was better at documenting truth. And slowly I built my defense. I kept a backup drive hidden in my car, saved every file on the cloud, took pictures of every drawer that used to hold my things. I was quiet, controlled, but inside, I was boiling. Because this wasn't just betrayal. It was calculated cruelty. They wanted me erased. Let them try. But I wasn't leaving without a fight. Every day I stayed in that house, I smiled less and planned more. Marcus thought I was backing down, that I was folding into myself, too weak to react. But I wasn't folding. I was focusing. Every word he said, every move he made, I stored in my memory like ammunition. And with Tina's help, I started turning that ammunition into a case. We met at her office every other day now. I'd walk in with folders, photos, and printouts, and she'd help me sort through them, organizing everything into digital files. She created a shared drive and labeled it, Jasmine Defense. "You're doing everything right," she said. "Stay quiet. Keep collecting. We're going to need solid, irrefutable proof." I didn't tell her everything, though. Not yet. Because there was something I hadn't shared with anyone. The cameras. It happened by accident. I was dusting the bookshelf in the bedroom when I noticed a black dot behind the plant. It was barely noticeable. Small, sleek, tucked between two books. I leaned closer. It blinked. A hidden camera. My stomach flipped. I checked the room. I found another tucked behind the curtain rod, one more behind the TV. And when I opened the utility closet, I saw the tiny blinking lights of a router I didn't recognize. He was recording me, monitoring me. For how long? I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I did what Tina told me. Document it. I took pictures, noted their positions, and kept my face neutral as I walked through the house the rest of the day. At night, I unplugged the devices when Marcus was asleep. I wasn't going to play dumb anymore. 2 days later, I showed everything to Tina. Jesus, she muttered, flipping through the photos. He's been building a surveillance file on you. I looked at her. Can we use this against him? She nodded. Absolutely. It proves he was trying to frame you. And if we combine this with your financial records and the testimony about how you've been treated, this is bigger than we thought. We took the evidence to Mr. Langford, a family lawyer Tina trusted. He reviewed it all with the calmness of someone who'd seen worse, but I could tell even he was surprised. He's trying to paint you unstable, Mr. Langford said, while simultaneously deleting your presence from the home and preparing to file for divorce under favorable terms. Can he do that? I asked quietly. Not if we get ahead of it, he replied. With your documented proof, income records, payment history, footage of him planting cameras, you have a strong foundation. Now we need to protect your share of the assets and prepare for the storm. The storm. It was coming, and I could feel the pressure building every minute I stayed in that house. Back at home, Marcus acted like everything was fine. He brought me coffee in the morning now, smiled like we were in some kind of romantic phase. I took it, nodded, said thank you, pretended I didn't know what he'd been doing behind the walls. He was setting me up for a quick, clean exit. He wanted me to feel safe, right before he pulled the rug out. But I wasn't going anywhere. One night, while he was in the shower, I opened his locked desk drawer with a spare key I'd found hidden in his sock drawer. Inside were more papers, legal forms, drafts of a divorce petition, and a financial declaration, one that conveniently erased my income contributions completely. It made it look like I had never worked, never paid a bill, never existed financially. He'd even written a paragraph claiming I had mental health challenges that caused prolonged emotional strain on the marriage. I stared at the paper, my hands cold. This was how he was going to do it. Shove me out with a lie. But now I had proof of that too. I scanned every document, returned them to the drawer, and walked away without a sound. He had his plan, but I had mine. And he was about to find out I wasn't just the quiet wife who smiled through betrayal. I was the storm. The first time I stepped into the courtroom, I felt like I couldn't breathe. The walls were cold, the air was still, and every eye in the room seemed to land on me as if I didn't belong there, as if I was already guilty of something. Marcus sat across from me in a sharp navy suit, arms relaxed, jaw clenched. Beside him was Gloria, smug and composed, like this was just a routine family event. And then there was Vanessa. Yes, she came too, sitting in the back row with the baby on her lap, pretending to be an innocent bystander. I didn't look at them. I kept my eyes forward. Because next to me sat Mr. Langford, calm, focused, and right in front of him was a folder filled with everything Marcus didn't want the court to see. "Let them talk first," Mr. Langford whispered. "They'll hang themselves." And that's exactly what they did. Marcus's lawyer stood and began painting a picture of me as unstable, financially dependent, and emotionally erratic. He referenced vague episodes and periods where Marcus feared for his safety. Gloria submitted a written testimony, claiming she had to intervene multiple times during our marriage to protect Marcus from my unpredictable moods. It was a performance, one they'd clearly rehearsed. But none of it prepared them for what came next. Mr. Langford stood slowly, straightened his jacket, and handed a packet of documents to the judge. "Your Honor," he began calmly, "these are pay stubs showing my client, Mrs. Jasmine Taylor, has been steadily employed for over 10 years, most recently promoted to Director of Operations with a salary that exceeded Mr. Taylor's by nearly 40%. Marcus shifted in his seat. "Here are bank statements showing she contributed 70% of all household bills, including the mortgage." Gloria leaned forward, squinting. "And here," Mr. Langford added, holding up a USB drive, is video and photographic evidence that Mr. Taylor installed hidden surveillance devices in their shared bedroom, without Jasmine's consent. Gasps rippled through the room. The judge frowned. Hidden surveillance? Yes, Your Honor, Langford said, handing over the drive, with full timestamps and footage showing not only the placement of cameras, but discussions between Mr. Taylor and Ms. Vanessa Cole, indicating a deliberate attempt to discredit my client's mental state in order to remove her from the home. Marcus opened his mouth, but his lawyer placed a hand on his arm. It was too late. Then came the final blow: financial records, scanned copies of the divorce drafts, and the altered statements Marcus had prepared, all designed to erase my contributions. All of it laid bare. The judge went silent for a long time. Then she looked at Marcus. Mr. Taylor, are you aware that installing surveillance equipment in a shared marital bedroom without consent may be considered a violation of privacy under state law? He stammered. I didn't mean... And colluding with third parties to remove your spouse under false pretenses is not only unethical, it borders on fraudulent. Gloria's face drained of color. Vanessa stood up and quietly left the room, clutching the baby like a shield. I kept my hands folded in my lap. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just sat still as everything they built collapsed around them. When the judge made her ruling, it was swift. I would keep the house. My financial contributions were not only recognized, they were upheld. The judge also issued a temporary restraining order against any further contact from Gloria or Vanessa until the proceedings were finalized. Marcus looked at me like he was seeing a stranger. And maybe he was, because the woman who entered that courtroom wasn't the same one who quietly endured his insults, who tiptoed around his moods, who swallowed betrayal with silence. This version of me, she didn't flinch. As I walked out of the courtroom, Tina was waiting outside. The apartment wasn't big, just one bedroom, a tiny balcony, and a kitchen that could barely fit 2 people. The walls were still bare, and half the furniture hadn't arrived yet. But it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. I woke up that morning to sunlight spilling through the windows and silence. Pure, beautiful silence. No Gloria dropping in unannounced. No Vanessa's laugh echoing down the hall. No Marcus pacing the floors, watching me like a hawk. Just peace. I wrapped my hands around a warm cup of coffee and stepped out onto the balcony. The city hummed softly below, but inside me, everything was still. This quiet was hard-earned. It wasn't just about the court ruling. It wasn't about the house or the money. It was about freedom, about finally being able to sit in my own skin without fear or shame. I'd spent so many years twisting myself into someone else's version of enough. Smart, but not too smart. Independent, but not too independent. Successful, but never more than Marcus. Now, I didn't have to shrink anymore. A few hours later, Tina came by with takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat on the floor because my couch hadn't arrived yet, but neither of us cared. To fresh starts, she said, raising her plastic cup. To surviving, I replied, clinking mine against hers. She looked around. It's simple, but it feels like you. It is me, I said. Finally. As we ate, I told her about the strange calm I'd felt since the ruling. Not relief, something deeper. Like I'd peeled off a version of myself I'd been wearing too long. You were never weak, Jazz, she said. You were just waiting for the right moment to stop carrying other people's burdens. I smiled at that. Later that evening, I sat alone again, sorting through old boxes. Some were filled with documents from the court case. Others were memories, photos, journals, pieces of my life before it all unraveled. At the very bottom of one box was our wedding photo. I stared at it for a while. Not with tears, not with anger, just clarity. I looked so hopeful back then, so sure. I almost didn't recognize myself. I gently tore the photo in half and tossed it in the trash. That chapter was over. Not erased, but finished. I didn't need to hold on to it anymore. The next morning, I had my first meeting back at work. My promotion had officially kicked in, and I walked into the office with my head held high. No one there knew what I'd been through. No one needed to. I sat at the head of the conference table, opened my laptop, and smiled at the team. It felt good. Not just the title or the paycheck, but owning my space, knowing I wasn't walking on anyone's ego anymore. I was there because I earned it, and I wasn't apologizing for it. A week later, Marcus texted, "Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I blocked the number. There was nothing left to say. He had tried to erase me, replace me, tear me down from the inside out. But I was still standing, and stronger than before. A few days after that, I walked into a local bookstore and bought myself a brand new journal. The first page I wrote in bold letters, "This is not a new chapter. This is a whole new book." I closed it, smiled, and tucked it into my purse. Because I wasn't going back. Not to the pain, not to the silence, not to the version of myself that accepted less. That version of me is gone. This new me? She lives in a small, sunlit apartment. She drinks her coffee alone, by choice. And every single morning, she wakes up free.